Let's go live to Canberra now. Centre Alliance Senator Rex Patrick joins us. I want to ask you about the events in the Senate last night. But first of all, given the passionate radio interview this morning with the Prime Minister, Rex Patrick, do you believe the government is doing all it can when it comes to the drought?
Look, there are certainly people who are struggling on farms that need direct assistance, and I take it on face value that some of them are not getting that direct assistance. Surely it's correct that the government is trying to assist, but that it's that direct assistance that's been drawn into question.
Yeah, and they've ruled out this extension of the cap of the 4-year farm household assistance. Do you think that's the right course of action, or would you like to see that uncapped?
Well, I haven't looked closely at that policy. Rebecca Sharkey is an expert in that area, and I'll seek guidance on her in relation to that.
Perfect, Senator. I appreciate that question without notice there. I just want to ask you about this lost vote in the Senate last night. What happened, and will it be a bit of a Pyrrhic victory for you?
Look, last night the government tried to move some laws through the Parliament, which generally we support. The laws related to police powers at airports, allowing people to, or allowing police to require the production of identification and perhaps moving them on, preventing them from getting on a flight. Now, of course, that affects many Australians. Lots of Australians use airports, and so I moved 2 amendments which were really just to check on those powers. One of them was to make sure that after 3 years of operation, those powers were subject to review by the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, and then after 4 years having a sunset clause, which meant that the powers would lapse. So there were 2 steps: review the laws, and of course if they were found to be very useful, then of course the Parliament could ensure that they kept going on. Last night, both of my amendments got up, and I don't think the government's very happy, but actually they didn't have the numbers to support stopping those amendments.
Could I just check in on a few other things? Has Centre Alliance's stance changed when it comes to the Medevac legislation?
No, not at all. We will oppose any changes to the Medevac laws. They have been effective. They have allowed people who need medical treatment to get back to Australia for that treatment, and it, of course, does not apply to new arrivals. It in no way applies to anyone who is thinking about getting on a boat and coming to Australia. It also doesn't grant any rights for someone who does come to Australia for medical attention to stay here in Australia. And so we're of the strong view that people who need medical attention should get that attention.
And events in Syria, in Turkey, in the Middle East more broadly, in just the last week or so, that hasn't changed your thinking here, given that there could be more refugees wanting to not only move to Australia but to other parts of the world?
Well, again, those particular laws do not have any effect on future arrivals. They only apply to people who are already on Manus, and those, and only when medical professionals have indicated they need to come back to Australia, and it does not give any rights for them to stay in Australia once that medical treatment is complete. And indeed, as I said, it doesn't apply to anyone who who would arrive in Australia from here on in.
Pauline Hanson's One Nation also in a bit of a Senate standoff at the moment, saying they're going to refuse to support any of the government's legislation until it does something about the milk industry, re-regulating it more specifically. What do you think about that move? Do you support it? And I guess if Pauline Hanson's dealing herself out of relevance, it puts you in the box seat.
Well, Pauline Hanson last night voted for the government in trying to stop the amendments that I put last night to the police powers laws. So in actual fact, she's not on strike. It's like being on a diet, except at breakfast time, lunchtime and dinner.